Florida Governor Rick Scott is declaring a state of emergency in 35 counties across that state.
The erupting volcano causing a state of emergency at this hour.
We have declared a provincial state of emergency.
Warwick City is under a state of emergency.
Now to the state of emergency declared tonight in Louisiana.
To a dire warning about climate change. According to a new report, experts say that we have until 2030 to avoid catastrophe. It also says if unprecedented changes are not made and made soon, there will be irreversible damage to the planet.
Alright, what's up? My name's Denzel, and today I'm going to be talking about a really bad issue known as climate change. Woo! 3, 2, 1. I'm going to redo this. Let's go. A few years ago, robots, AI, and the next new species of animal would have been our main focus. And they still are, but they shouldn't be. I'm going to tell you why right now. I'm going to read my script. But now, it's climate change. But now, it's climate change. You know what? People love British accents, Australian accents. I'm gonna do the whole video in Australian. Let's do it. Here we go, mate. It's getting crazy out here. So, a report known as the IPCC report, which stands for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is a body of delegates from more than 120 different countries, come together and issue a report. Now, when these guys make a report, the world knows that this is a big deal. So, it used to be a question on whether humans started climate change and how and why, but that's all out the door by now. Because we know we started climate change, and the only question is when. Not when we started it, but when is the doomsday coming to get us? And it's coming. It is coming. The signs are there. I just want to explain everything because this is a really great topic. My exhibition is tomorrow, by the way. That sucks. I have my exhibition in less than 24 hours. How will we be brought down as a civilization thanks to years and years of damage being done to the earth? Well, let's go forward in time for a bit. So for the stats, statistically, we have 12 years to drastically change how we live right now. Well, what does that mean? That means we have to keep the global temperature. And let me explain this for a bit. So global temperature is the Earth, not the Earth's core, but the Earth in total. Believe it or not, it's at 1 degree. It used to be at 0.5 degrees, half a degree. Now it's at 1. Now, to put it in perspective, ice is melting. Why is ice melting? Because the Earth is getting hotter. The Earth is at 1 degree. We used to be at 0.5 degrees. The Earth's temperature rose by half a degree, half a small degree, and now the ice is melting. Now, the reason why I say, and not just me, but the IPCC report says that we have to keep this number under 1.5 is because it's coming fast. Now, if the ice is melting now at 1 degree, imagine how much another half degree would do. How much damage would that cause? But ice isn't the only focus. I'm going to talk about it, but it's not just the main focus. First of all, in Africa, armed conflict has gotten even worse thanks to climate change. Now, why is that? Well, you have droughts, you have floods, and those are a ton more frequent. Now, they're so damaging that even terrorist groups, terrorist organizations, so terrorist groups like Boko Haram are moving towards villages and taking them over for their supplies. Now, this isn't talked about, but a report was just made like 2 days ago, that showed this. The terrorist organizations are coming into cities, coming to towns, coming into villages in Africa, a continent, not a country, a continent, and taking them over because they're out of supplies. 80% of the farmland in Africa has degraded, 80% due to the heat. That's almost every single country with less and less goods. 2018, there were 10 hurricanes, 2 of those major hurricanes
would help contain the fires.
Man. Every single one of those hurricanes killed people. Okay, every single one. Why do we have to keep the Earth's temperature under 1.5? Let me tell you. So, like I said, 1.5 doesn't sound like that much. Now, if we crank up the heat by half a degree and the ice melted to begin with, just by the Earth's temperature being turned up half a degree, imagine how much damage that could cause. It's only half a degree and it's inflicting so much damage. It's crazy. So you have Greenland, okay? Greenland is located right here, all right? It's a gigantic, it's a gigantic, it's an enormous sheet of ice. You have the Arctic, sheet of ice. You have Antarctica, ice. Oh, ice. Now, if Greenland alone were to melt, And by the way, half a degree is enough to melt all of Greenland and all of the Arctic. If half a degree, if we go up to half a degree or even 2 degrees, 2 degrees would for sure wipe Antarctica out. If we turn up the Earth's temperature to half a degree, all that melts. But what does that mean? What happens when all that melts? Well, the ocean would rise by 7 meters. Now, doesn't sound like too much, but there's coastal cities, there's coastal towns. Coastal countries would have an insane problem. If you think you have an immigration problem now, if you think Canada gets way too many immigrants, if Donald Trump thinks that his country gets way too many immigrants, just wait until that ice melts, because when that rises, imagine how many flooding problems we're gonna have, how many droughts. Hurricanes. Okay, this is a pretty crazy one. So Florida, it's a coastal city. It's nice. It's also extremely susceptible to this ocean rise problem. The ocean rises. What happens? Florida, they don't completely go under. No. Instead, a third of Florida goes under. Now, that's worse because people will still live in Florida. What happens if all that new area is exposed to the ocean? Hurricanes. Hurricanes form on the ocean. Literally, Florida is going to be here. A hurricane is going to be here. And what used to be big Florida is very small to begin with, but it's going to be an even smaller amount of Florida being overtaken by a huge hurricane. Now, hurricanes are going to get massive. Hurricanes are completely going to cover Florida. And it's sad because a third of Florida will be overtaken by water. And not only that, they would be even more susceptible to hurricanes, which is just, it's a reality that we might face. But if we don't do anything, we're gonna face it. The ocean is rising, but it's also getting hotter. At 1.5 degrees, 90% of our coral reefs are expected to be completely gone. At 2 degrees, completely wiping them out. Coral reefs will be gone, extinct. Animals that were there, extinct, dead. They have no habitat, they're dead. Fish that lived there and ate there, dead. It's sad. It's funny because we don't even know what's at the bottom of the ocean. If the Earth's temperature rises, we're never going to know what's at the bottom of the ocean. We wonder why we don't see many animals, because they're all going extinct. Some animals we haven't even found are also going extinct. Ocean, by the time we get to the ocean, by the time we finally reach the bottom floor, over half of the animals that we could have found will be extinct. New shark species, new huge whales could be dead. Huge octopus, you never know. There's so many different kinds. I can't even explain them because I don't know, and we'll never know unless we change this in 12 years. Okay, 12 years. Okay, 144 months left until that comes. Just think about that. People think you have all the time in the world. There's 144 months left. That's terrible. Didgeridoo McKangaroo. Alright, mate. So here are all the things that we have to do to keep this number below 1.5. Are you ready? Pretty scary. Remove meat from our diets. Completely. 100%. And I don't mean temporarily or even a small amount. I mean completely. We cannot have meat. You get this? We can't have meat. We can't eat meat. All meat that we have to eat has to be lab grown. Okay? I don't know why I'm getting so flustered. I'm really tempted to swear, I'll be honest with you. But I can't swear. Like, it's just a habit. So I'm gonna say the most weirdest curse words I can say, because I can't swear. We have to remove gas emissions completely, and that doesn't mean just driving cars, okay? This is pretty cool, actually. I thought this was interesting because I've never really thought about this. But to remove all gas emissions, we have to cut factories out. We can't drive cars, right? Wrong. There's actually more. And once I say that, we're gonna be like, oh yeah, oh that makes so much sense. I get it, yeah. But listen, okay? We have to switch to 100% renewable energy. Not just cars. That means ships, trains, cars again, and even planes. All of these we cannot use. Submarines, sorry, bye-bye. That means we have to adapt our military. That means we have to adapt this, that, like so many different things. Like it's just, it's ridiculous. We can't have rockets. Rockets, have you seen how much smoke these put in the atmosphere? It's insane. Just so to summarize everything, we have 12 years to change. 12 years to drastically change. We have to live on 100% renewable energy. We cannot drive cars. We cannot fly planes. We cannot fly helicopters. We have to eat 100% lab-grown meat. Okay, only 100 companies are responsible for all that damage being done. 100 companies are responsible for 7% of the carbon that's being brought into the earth. The rest of it is us. It's just regular people. Oh my god. but I think it's okay. So, like I was saying, what was I even saying again? I don't even remember. But basically, we've managed to ignore the sirens for years now, and now it's time to pay the price. So, this is all pretty hard, and of course it isn't easy, but with the right amount of efforts taken, with the right amount of steps in the right direction, we can do it. Now we can't not just eat meat, by the way. We can't just not eat. Let's say we find a way to make meat in a lab, but we still drive cars. We can't do that. Let's say we find a way to stop trains, ships, every carbon emission, right, including cars. Let's say we find a way to only use energy with everything. It still doesn't work. We have to stop eating cows. We have to stop eating meat, because cows release carbon into the atmosphere, especially when you slaughter them. We have to stop eating meat, and we have to stop doing this. Like, it's too much. We have to do everything in total. It's all a collective. Now, no one even knows what can happen if the sea level rises. Obviously, Florida will be overtaken. Obviously, floods will happen. The floods happen. The droughts can have an even bigger cataclysm of effects. World War III could be started because of differences that certain countries have with who needs what and who takes this. Because if there's such a necessity for the products right now, imagine how bad it'll get then when countries really need that oil and really need this, but there's a big ass lake now because it flooded. That's the reality. World War III is very problematic, and it's gonna get even worse when people start needing something, because countries are gonna get really greedy. They always are. They're gonna want this, gonna want that. It's just gonna spiral out of control. It's bad. Like I said, hopefully you got that. The summary, like I pointed everything out. That's pretty much it. It's not hard. Just do the little things, but please encourage people to stop driving cars. Buy an electric car. Like, they're really hard to get, and like it's hard. Anyway, my name is Denzel. Like I said, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Peace. Woo! That's the video done. God, man.